we're going to go ahead and jump in here. So first off, what's the agenda today? I'll introduce myself and my co-host here, Mike, in a second. Then we'll jump into why we're running this webinar, why we thought this would be an interesting and timely topic, some of the benefits we see of this general concept. Like I said, we will then do a quick poll, go through some overviews of some various technology solutions that we work on and offer, and then jump into product demos. I mean, I know a lot of you are probably here to actually see the software, so we are going to make sure that is the bulk of this webinar. And of course, any questions that we don't get to during the session, we will make sure to answer at the end. So who are we? Well, my name's Nate Levine. I'm one of the co-founders here at Camino. And if you're not familiar with Camino, we are a software company that builds technology for permitting and licensing workflows. We'll show off more of what that means and some of the detail, but really we just care about bringing the best possible software and technology to government. I've worked in this space a long time, as has my partner here, Mike. Mike, you want to say hello?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Mike. And yeah, I've been working with Nate. This is our second company in the space. We started one focused on finances that grew pretty large, and now we've as of the last 4 or 5 years honed our focus in on permitting, land management, and licensing.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, so let's get into some of this content. So why did we want to do this webinar at this time? Well, and actually, some of you may have attended another version of this webinar we did a couple months ago, and the feedback to that webinar was really, really positive. So we thought this would be a good set of content to bring back, a good topic to maybe spend some more time on. But these are some of the things that we've heard from the many governments that we work with every day. The first is that there's an ever-changing and increasing set of demands and expectations that citizens have of their governments and how they'll operate. And we now live in a world where a lot of information, a lot of services are available on demand 24/7 at the click of a button. And citizens are telling their governments that that's how they want to be able to interact with them and get these public services. We've also, of course, seen over the last year an acceleration towards working remotely. This can affect staff in a permit center. This also affects homeowners, business owners, people who maybe are not working in the same ways that they're used to and need to be able to do more from home. And what we're also seeing is continuously increasing strain on many government departments who are seeing greater development, new businesses opening, more homes being built, renovations happening. And all of this while there may be an increasing wave of retirements and in some areas, budget cuts. So these various trends to us are becoming more and more apparent the more agencies we talk to, and we see technology as being at least a way to help with many of these, and it's why we thought this would be an important a session to run right now. So obviously, those trends can lead to some challenges, and some common things we also hear is during the permit process, applicants tend to have tons of questions about how the process works, what's allowed, what's not, where they can do something. And generally, this has to fall on staff to answer those questions. So it's somebody picking up the phone, it's somebody doing a meeting at the counter. It usually relies on a person, and that manual effort takes a lot of time. We also hear that applicants, a homeowner, business owner, contractor, they can feel sometimes like they're blocked and can't get work done outside of, say, 9 to 5, a Monday through Friday. They may want to be able to do some work, do some planning on a weekend after hours when they're available. And when that permit center is not open, that can slow down the overall process. And then, of course, for larger projects, you have multiple different groups involved. Sometimes there's a different process in each department, and it's not always really clear and transparent how to navigate those different elements and get that permit quickly. So these challenges that we have heard were a big part of the inspiration for the technology that we've built here at Camino, and why we feel that this concept of a 24/7 permit center can be so helpful for so many agencies. So Mike, do you want to talk about what a 24/7 permit center looks like?
Yeah, happy to. And, some of this stuff here, different cities and jurisdictions are going to have solutions online. They're going to have resources, and so there's different ways of thinking about 24/7. The way we've thought about it is we broke it into a couple major categories that we'll go over today. But on this slide, it's really focusing on, can an applicant find answers to their questions without staff's help? This is a pretty nuanced question because, yes, there is probably a lot of information online, but there might be questions about retaining walls. There might be questions about removing a certain amount of dirt, or how high a wall can be, or a facade can be. And so there can be these kind of questions that are deeper in the process that are harder to find, or harder to go through PDFs or handouts to figure out. So really, it's, can an applicant find the answers to most of their questions? And we have a guided process to help with that. But that's one, big definition of a 24/7 permit center. The other thing is, can most of the process be completed without visiting City Hall? So that's everything from submitting applications to pulling maybe simple permits online, to completing inspections from home or even remotely. And this is important because there's a lot of people who can't take time off work or can't make it into the City Hall during certain times. With some of our customers going down to 3 days a week, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And, maybe they're not open Thursdays and Fridays. And so I just think creating that accessibility is great. And a good test for this is how much of the permit process entirely can be done online. This is from, on a Sunday, how much information can be answered. Hey, can I add a bathroom to my home? And what are the constraints around doing that? And how long might it take? And am I going to need insurance? And am I going to need, certain types of approvals? Is my contractor going to need to be licensed? Do I need a contractor? Depending on the sophistication of that applicant, that can change kind of the answer to that question. And so I think that's a good test on Sunday afternoon. How can a regular person in your city or jurisdiction, how far can they go?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great overview. And this is a concept that is always going to be changing. And that's really what we're here to try to help with as technologists. I mean, many cities that we've worked with for the last decade, 10 years ago, what it meant to have a quote online permit center was very different. Having a form that you could fill out online, in some ways that was very cutting edge at that time. But 10 years later, a lot has changed. And again, those expectations are different. And now people really do want to be able to do most of the process themselves where possible. So some of the benefits, many of these I'm sure you've all experienced already in any areas where you've made technology investments. But one, you're going to see really happy customers. And that's something that I think, we all care about, citizens who feel like they are being, well served, that they're able to get what they need, that they can do things on their own time, especially when they're busy. Reducing the number of those questions, errors, misunderstandings that maybe happen during the process. I mean, again, obviously that goes back to making everybody feel good about the process, but it also helps with efficiency. If every application is filled out the right way, if every form submitted to the right place, well, you can get through the issuance faster, and people can move on and do their work. And of course, when the applicants can work remotely, it also enables staff to do that as well when they need to. So, imagine being in the field, doing an inspection, and then also being able to, interact with an existing permit process elsewhere, maybe between jobs, being able to do that from your phone or something, and be able to get more done at any given time. And then, of course, as regulations change and as processes change, something else that we see accelerating, it's easier to respond to that when a lot of this is digitized and automated, because otherwise it becomes a challenge of getting everybody on the same page. So, there's some things that you probably are doing already today. I mean, many of you probably already have a cloud-based permit system. That's obviously going to be really critical to this. You may already have an online portal for submitting applications, looking up status. Again, these are sort of foundational elements, I think, to offering this type of a 24/7 online permit center. Handouts, FAQs, Mike touched on this. Most websites we see, there's a lot of handouts, a lot of good information on there already. And you may do things like inspection scheduling or meeting scheduling. So if you're not doing these, certainly I think these are very important places to start and great services to your residents. If you are doing these, then I think what we can show you today is what else you might want to think about doing. So Mike, what are some of those things? What are some of those really new cutting edge concepts that we're seeing some governments start to adopt?
Yeah, I mean, the first one is one-stop shop portal. So not needing to go to multiple applications, an application for your plan review, an application for your online submission, an application for your payments, doing everything in one place for the end user. And then behind the scenes, that can still farm out to different softwares or different solutions, but giving that applicant one place to look. Other is, I'm going left to right here, just providing more than the online guides, really getting into permit wizards. And this includes incorporating as much automation as possible. Hey, I'm about to do a new project at this address. Let me type in that address. Great. I mean, these jurisdictions, we have a lot of information about what is allowed at that address. How do we check against those zones? Hey, I want to put in a new high density housing unit here. Well, that may not be allowed in this. This is a purely commercial zone or whatever. Might be a bad example because someone probably looking at high density housing might know, but I've been unfortunately surprised how often folks on the development side don't seem to know the rules. Going down one, automatic e-permits. How about small things? How do we think about making it so a water heater permit, if you're in California, let's say, can get their permit? My water heater breaks on the weekend. I go to Home Depot. I get my new water heater. Be really neat if I could just get my permit right then and there, as opposed to waiting till the following Monday or Tuesday. Electronic plan submission and review. This kind of sticks into the one-shop portal, but really just making sure everything can be done digitally and submitting it, reviewing, getting revisions, getting the old digital stamp or wet stamp signed off on. And finally, I think this is neat. We did roll out a product around this last year. I think it's still in a kind of emerging area, which is virtual inspections. How can you kind of conduct more and more of these digital inspections where the staff get to stay in their homes or at the office and digitally guide an applicant or homeowner or on-site staff to get an inspection done? And then my desire as a homeowner would be eventually we get to self-inspection. Hey, let me record this video. Let me kind of take all the angled shots that you're asking for and submit that. And asynchronously, you tell me if that works or not. And if it doesn't, I'll go back and try again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these are really exciting concepts. And one thing I do want to just call out here, like on that last point, for example, I mean, sometimes when we have these discussions, there's sort of this question of like, okay, so are you talking about replacing inspectors? Are you talking about replacing counter technicians? And the answer is absolutely not. I mean, none of this technology is meant to replace the work that the really experienced employees are going to be doing. I mean, that job will always need to be there. The question is, can we take some of the more more basic work that they're doing and automate it so that your staff has more time for the big projects, for the really complex inspections, the areas where where they're really needed. And that's always the lens that we take when we look at this, is how do we enable existing staff to do more. So like I said, I'm going to run a quick poll here. I'll leave this up for maybe 30 seconds, but I think it's always interesting and helpful just to get a sense from everybody here why this is an interesting topic. So you should see a little poll interface pop up in your Zoom panel, and yeah, just go ahead and pick the answer that feels most right to you. And we're starting to get a bunch of results in. So yeah, I mean, we ran this poll once before, and generally that option one, providing a better experience, that seemed to be the primary interest, and seeing that again here. So it's looking like about 75% of the responders here are saying that they're interested in setting up this type of an online permit center primarily to provide a better experience to applicants. And I'll go ahead and end this poll so that everybody can see that. But yeah, I think it's very interesting, very much aligned with what we hear, and yeah, I mean, that's a really critical part of where this technology is going to be important and helpful.
And that's kind of the inspiration of the entire inception of Camino. I mean, Nate and I had run through permit processes. We had run through starting businesses and going through the licensing in a city like San Francisco, and just found the whole process confusing, yet they had bought the best in class, greatest solution they could find. And that still didn't feel great. And we were like, well, as technologists who've built multiple tech companies, and we should be able to figure this out. This still seems confusing. So I did the old test. I sat down with my dad and I sat him on the San Francisco website to register your business. And I said, show me how you'd register a business and if you can figure this out. And a few explicatives later, he just said, nope, I'd move my company out of SF. And I said, well, that's probably not an option for a lot of people, but that was some of the early inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's really, like you said, it's about making it so that everybody, regardless of their background experience, is able to move through this process easily. Well, great. Thank you for providing that information. Again, super helpful and helps us frame this conversation. So I do want to get into the demo. So I'm going to move through these, these slides somewhat quickly, but I think they're just a helpful context for what you're going to be showing. So these are some of the different ways that we work with governments to help promote this type of a concept. The first, and we've alluded to this, is providing guides online. So really interactive, intelligent guides that are going to help somebody figure out what they need to, what they need to do to get their project done, where they can do it, how to do it, what the fees are going to be, just removing a lot of that ambiguity and bringing transparency. Extending that to then allowing for essentially all of the application and most of the follow-up to be done online. So, if you got to submit a document, you can do it online. If you got to fill out a form, again, it's all there. Being able to auto issue permits at the end of the process. And then, as Mike said, virtual inspections. So we do have a solution for this as well that'll let you run essentially a full building inspection remotely. And as you'll see, it's really a lot of what comes here before the application that we try to focus. And when we talk about this idea of providing a 24/7 permit center, it's really here where we also see where we tend to see the least existing functionality. And it's why we've put a lot of effort here. Obviously, most governments have a permit system. They have a way to apply and do reviews and go all the way through the inspection process. But it's, up to this point, most applicants are kind of on their own. I mean, they either have to go sift through forms on a website and PDFs, or they need to call or meet with city staff. And again, we're trying to look for ways to remove that necessity there for, at least for some types of projects. So what you'll see in the demo, again, you'll see how we can, sort of take that concept of an online guide and then add in things like forms, payments, messaging, document uploads. So this is all part of a platform that we offer that can enhance your existing process with this type of functionality. So if you don't have an existing permit system at all, you can use Camino to run that full process. If you do have an existing permit system, but any of these are things that you might be interested in adding onto that, as you'll see, that's an option. So this can either work alongside, what you have today, whether it's Excella, Tyler, something like that, or this could be something you set up from the ground up. A couple of just final notes here. I mean, Mike, do you want to touch on our implementation process?
I do, and I'm being told the poll results may still be up.
Okay, I will take a look at that while you.
And if they are up, you should be able to close them. And
yeah, I see. I just need to hit stop sharing. So there we go.
All right.
Close it.
I hope everyone could still see things. So say that again, Nate.
Well, I was saying, do you want to talk a bit about how we approach implementations and what
Yeah.
we've done to invest there?
Yeah. So we worked with a bunch of cities for the first almost 2 years of existing before we really even made the name Camino. We worked with probably about 5 or 6 cities on what we thought would be an impactful, more than evolution in software in this industry. And one of the big ones was to move towards customers being able to build their own workflows, design their own logic, and to manage their own system without having to pick up the phone and call us. Now people can still call us, but we really wanted to try to design a system that allowed customers to be self-sufficient and give them their own tools. So what we ended up designing, and it's always evolving for us, is a system that ties these things like project types. So it could be something like a rental registry or a certificate of compliance or a vacant property registry, all the way over to here are the steps you're going to need to do to apply for this or get this certificate. And so you could think of this as kind of automatically designing your handout that can then be applied for. And so in the middle, we have our rules, and the bread and butter of what Camino is at its core is its rule engine. We allow you to design complex or simple rules that look at things like GIS information. Maybe it looks at a contractor license. Maybe it looks at answers to a Q&A that you asked your applicant to go through. So it could be like, yeah, I'm building a building that's going to be greater than 10,000 square feet in this zone. And you can design the system to say, hey, the maximum in this zone is 3,000 square feet, and give them information on how they can file a petition or not, just say, hey, it's not allowed. So we've designed the software such that you can really go as far as you want, as complex as you want, or keep it simple. So in this case, we have a really simple example. We ask questions like, will you allow interior inspection? Is the applicant the property owner? And if someone were to say no to the applicant being the property owner, then you could include some steps on making sure that you're collecting the property owner's information, and sending information to that person and invite them to the process. So, we really just tried to make this so that we can cover a lot of cases, and it's up to you how you want to configure it, without needing to write custom software or bring an independent group in to customize it for you.
Yep, this has been very successful. I mean, many of our customers, honestly, far more than we ever expected, have self-implemented. They've used this system to build out their own workflows and processes and rules, and we're there to support when needed, but they run with it, and we've seen some really incredible results from that. So, yeah, and one final thing. I mean, this is maybe more for the benefit of some existing customers who are on this call, but one thing we also just wanted to announce, because it's a newer feature, is that we do also now support data warehousing. So something that has been heavily requested and frequently requested is the ability to create custom dashboards, reports, things like that. And so in order to enable that, we now allow every user of Camino to set up a separate data warehouse where they can pull their own results at any time, analyze where people are doing construction, how submissions are moving through the system, how many fees you've collected, whatever you want to report on. Made it very easy to do that. So if you are a Camino customer and this is something you're interested in and you haven't talked to us yet, yeah, just reach out. We can set this up for you and show you how it works.
I just want to make a point on that last slide.
Go ahead.
These little charts on the right are just samples that we put together. We don't actually do the charting and graphing. We learned a lot from building the last couple companies, and that we only want to do what we're best at. And there are other solutions like Tableau, MicroStrategy, Crystal Reports, tools that you may already be using, and our data plugs right into those systems pretty seamlessly. So that's a really important point here, is that our goal is to give you your data. You can download it, you can throw it into a charting tool, you can plug it into Excel, however you want to use it. You'll have your own database to kind of pull from that.
Yep, exactly. Cool. Well, like I said, we'll also plan to do a quick demo of virtual inspections after we demo the kind of the guide and application product. So you'll see how that works. Really cool. Just runs completely seamlessly from really any phone without an app. And as we move into this demo, I did just want to highlight, this is a very successful and established system. So one question we also get is like, hey, this stuff looks cool. Is it being used? And the answer is yes. And we have, I think 50 plus agencies at this point using Camino software. We're seeing great results like Santa Clarita. They set up an online guide for their residents that's reduced calls by 30%, reduced the number of conversations they have at the permit counter by 70%. And it's really made their customers very, very happy. And like I said, we have many of these trusted agencies using the Camino system. So without further ado, I do want to jump into the demo here and show you how some of this software works. So I'm going to switch over to that. As a reminder, do feel free to post questions at any time. And in fact, it does look like we had a question come in from Francis
about
that
an answer right now.
Okay, cool. Mike is answering that one, so that's great. And I can also speak to that towards the end. I do think it's an interesting topic. But as a reminder, if any questions come up, type them in and we will make sure to get to them. Okay, so I'm gonna start actually by taking you through what the experience is like using Camino as an applicant, and then I'll show you a bit of the back end as well, touch on some of the various items that we talked about. But this is what an online portal would look like for somebody who is thinking about doing a project or doing some research online. So just as a reminder, everything in Camino is hosted. So you'll see this is running out of my browser. Generally, this would be put as a link on your city website. So you can imagine on your building department page, something like that. You just have a link that says click here to to start a project, and then it drops them right into the Camino guide. And this entire system is designed to really walk somebody through every step of this process from start to finish, removing most of the guesswork and the homework that historically has been required. So if you're an experienced contractor, great, you can zip through this. If you're an inexperienced homeowner, well, this is going to make things much more approachable for you, because I don't have to do something like apply for a building permit. I can just click a button that says I want to do a new residential project, and then it can tell me, it can come back and say, well, what type of residential project do you want to do? So I'm not speaking here in terms of permits and licenses. I'm looking at this from a perspective that I understand, which is what am I trying to build? Now, a question was asked, Mike's answering it, but a question was asked about whether this requires a registration. So generally, yes, it does. I mean, I kind of skipped that step for the sake of the demo, but you'll see up here, I am logged in. We do also support a guest mode, though. So if you would like, you can allow people to come in as a guest and not have to register up front. So I'm going to go ahead and select something I want to build here. Maybe it's an accessory structure, and then it comes back and says, okay, well, what type of accessory structure? And I could pick a garage. Now, everything you see here is also configurable. So Mike talked about our implementation process, and we showed a little snapshot of our rule engine. Every aspect, literally every aspect of that is configurable to each agency. So these particular categories you see, this is one example. This could represent commercial project types. This could represent industrial project types. This could be business license categories. So certainly do not have to just present things the way that they're shown here. So I'll go ahead and make a selection here of what I'm trying to build. I'll say it's a garage. And then I'm going to go ahead and enter a location for this project. So what's going on here is actually really, really cool and powerful. And it's honestly one of the things that I always get the most excited about with the Camino system. And it's the fact that our software behind the scenes is able to do some pretty sophisticated GIS logic. We're able to integrate with whatever you use today. Let's say you're using Esri for your GIS data. We can pull your information from that. We can build logic around it. And then we can automatically check things like, are you in a fire zone? Are you in a historical district? Is your property zoned appropriately for what you're trying to build? So let's say I wanted to open a business here, but this is a residential property. Your system could come back and say, sorry, this isn't going to be allowed. you have to go through this, variance process in order to do that. So it's also doing a lot of that work that, again, today can be very hard for people to sift through, especially when you get to complex zoning tables. So go ahead and confirm that. And then the final step here, at least in kind of what we call the survey, is answering some more detailed questions about the project. So again, this would be kind of derived from the type of project you're doing. So these are questions specific to a garage at this particular address. And as I go through and answer them, this will impact what my process looks like later. So maybe structures less than 120 square feet don't need a permit. Well, you can set the system up that way. They say no to this question. Okay, you take them down a different path. And you'll also notice that at every point, we try to make this really, really intuitive and approachable. So, if there's a question that maybe is a little more technical, you can add help text. You can add some text that pulls out a sidebar that explains exactly what this question is asking and help understand how to answer it. You can almost think of this like TurboTax. So if you've ever used TurboTax to pay your taxes, we've really tried to cue off of that concept here and hold somebody's hand through this where needed. But I'll go ahead and answer the rest of these questions. I'll go ahead and submit this. It's going to ask me a question related to fee calculation. So I go ahead and put in evaluation for this garage and we'll submit. Now, there was a question about whether you have to register for this. And again, I noted that I am logged in. Part of the reason why we give an option to register is also so that everything you do is saved. So let's say I got halfway through that survey and I didn't know the answer to one of those questions, or I didn't know the valuation yet. Well, the nice thing is I can just pause, go get the answer to that, and then come back and finish this when I'm ready. This is another area where we find that this can be a much better experience. Because imagine you've come into the permit center to meet and learn some things, and then a question comes up you don't know. It's like, all right, well, I got to go home, do research, come back. And in this way, if I get to a point where I need to go, dig in more or maybe do more planning, I found that out very quickly, and I can now go get everything sorted out before I move forward with my application. So, okay, I finished my survey, answered my questions, all very simple up to this point. And I'll go ahead and click Get Started here. And what this now lays out for me is a very simple, easy to follow set of application steps. And that's how you should look at this. Think of this as like a customized checklist of everything I need to do from start to finish to apply for this project. So up here at the top, we have up here we're calling it pre-application information, but this is essentially things that you might want somebody to review when they're building a garage, like land survey requirements. Maybe there's handouts you want them to read, so go ahead and attach them here. I don't have to go, I don't have to go sort through dozens of pages to find the right handouts that apply to me. You just make them automatically included. It's flagging that I'm in a fire zone. And as a result of that, there's going to be some different construction requirements I need to follow and information there. And then it can even pull in things like, here are your setbacks. Based on the zone you're in, which we've found from the GIS data, these are going to be the exact setbacks that apply to your property. So think about how nice that is to have all that information laid out for me very easily. Moving down, yes.
I wanted to share two things real quick because two questions were asked. First question was, I'm going in reverse order. Well, the first question was, do we support payments during all of this? And we do. Nate will probably touch on one of these down at the bottom left, and we do integrate with different payment gateways. The second thing that was asked is, what happens if you leave the page, Nate, and were to come back? And the answer is that during the QA process and during the application process, and really forever on, if you're logged in, you can leave at any time and come back and it will resume. It saves your session state as you're going.
Exactly. So I can even show this. I mean, there's this home button here, and if I click that, this takes me to my little personal dashboard, and this might show me, okay, here's all the different projects you have ongoing. All right, I'm ready to jump back into this one, open it up. And I'm right back where we started. So yeah, that will be saved and available anytime you resume. But yeah, great questions. And it looks like another came in of which payment gateways we integrate with. That is a very good question. Honestly, probably easier to answer offline. We can integrate with many, but there's some specific technical details to that. So I would say reach out to us after the webinar, and we can help you with that. Okay, so let's see. So moving on. So into the actual application. So if there's a form that needs to get filled out, maybe just some basic details. I'll just put in who I am. All right, Nate Levine. Here's my address. Contractor's Bob Smith. Here's his license number. So we can gather all this just like any online form. If there's information that gets collected in one part of the system, we can also reuse that elsewhere. So I already gave my project valuation, so then it can auto-populate on other forms that need that. Put my description, new garage, etc. I won't go type all this out right now. Let's go ahead and save that. And you'll notice as I complete a step, it gets marked done on the left of my screen. So I can also keep track of my progress that way. All right, I've finished this form. I can move on now to this form. Another cool thing we support, you'll see right here, is digitizing existing PDFs. So sometimes there's a form that has a particular structure to it, or maybe is a state mandated form or a county form if you're a city, something where you need it filled out a specific way. Well, instead of just collecting the fields or asking them to fill it out and upload it, you can literally upload that form as a template, add fields onto it, and then somebody can fill it out directly through the system. So I can again provide this information here. I can interact with it. We can do e-signatures. So if I wanted to put my name here and then sign it, we can do that. And once this is signed and submitted, it'll get locked. But now you can see that step is done. We do also support document uploads. So let's say there's some different sets of plans that need to be submitted. This can lay out exactly which ones those are. And then I can go ahead and just upload files directly here. As I upload each file, it'll get marked as done. So I can upload my engineering plans. Maybe for this one, they say, download this, fill it out, re-upload it. Okay, so I can do that. And as my steps all get completed, you'll notice this then prompts me to submit. So it says, great, thank you. Would you like to submit your application? Yes or no? And all I have to do to submit is go ahead and click this button. So I'll go ahead and do that. And now my application has been sent in for review. And it's that easy. Mike, I did see some questions had come in. Anything worth answering for the group? Or
there's some questions about integrations. I see it in a few different places, and broadly can address this, which is that we have a very small set of integrations that we support today, and they're mostly to payment systems. And we're actively working on one with ePlanSoft for plan check. Independent of those, we are actively building out our integration layer that we're rolling out this year that will enable us to more seamlessly connect both directions, sending data and receiving data from a slew of systems. So if you're using document management and don't want to use our document management tool, you could take the data and the documents from our system and relay them to another system. You could copy them so that they're stored somewhere else for long-term keeping. But that's the integration question that came through. I think that's about it. I think the other questions were a little more specific that I tried to answer. Okay,
excellent. Yeah, and I see a couple other things like how much space do we provide for document uploads? Quite a bit. I think we currently have a few hundred megabytes, something like that.
So we currently have a 500 megabyte per file upload. This is an arbitrary limit that we set, and every time it needs to grow, we have grown it. And then we have no storage quota. So some of our customers are storing hundreds beyond hundreds of gigabytes of files, some aren't. And those are stored forever in our system. Yep. So we have a pretty hard policy about things don't get deleted. You can archive things, but under the hood, everything remains until you forcefully delete something, and then you get like 13 different warnings to do that just to make sure you want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I did see a question here that said, notice you hadn't added an email address in the application. Can it be made a mandatory field? So yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, every single thing you see in here is configurable to exactly the way you want it. If you want to ask for an email address and require that, you can do that. You can make this a required field. Another thing I'll say though is as part of registering to submit this application, I did have to sign up with an email address. So anybody who submits an application through here, we are also capturing their email address as a required field by default. So a couple other things I'll just note here because I think they're also pretty cool and helpful. So one is fees. There's been some questions about how we do fee payments and what we can integrate with, but fees can be paid directly through Camino. So you'll notice if there are a couple fees down here that have been calculated, like the accessory structure fee based on evaluation. All I'd have to do here is click pay fees, and this would pull up an interface where I can enter my credit card information. This will calculate my total for me, and I can go ahead and pay that. And that's all processed through us. Another thing I'll point out here that gets used a lot are these is this chat feature. So this is really cool, and this allows an applicant to communicate directly with you and your staff without leaving Camino. So if I have a question about my setback form, I post it here. Does the setback form need to show neighboring lots? Yes or no? I can post that message, and that will go right to agency staff for them to respond to. So it keeps all the communication here. You don't have to worry about losing track of emails or calls that never got written down. And the next person to come in can very quickly just kind of jump in and see everything that was worked on here. So that's sort of the front end of the process from the applicant's experience. I will go ahead and jump to kind of the back end now and just touch on a few high level things here. We're not going to have time to go through most of the functionality here, so I would encourage you, if you want to see more of this, to reach out and we can happily set up a one-on-one call with you. But I'll show some things here that I just think are important. So the first is processing these submissions. So this application was submitted. You can see it up here, but this interface is how you can go review everything that's been sent in. So you'll see who submitted, what the address was, project type, status. You can customize this however you want. So if you want to pull in different fields and filter this and create saved views, and you can do that to your heart's delight to create different reports. If I jump into this particular submission, this is the interface you can see from the back end showing essentially everything that was included as part of the application. So all the data fields and information that was submitted, including the email address and things like that were captured here. You can see the individual application steps that were completed and filled out and interact with those. You can see the location, any GIS data that maybe gets pulled in, document. So it's all laid out here in a very easy and accessible way to review. And then we also make it simple to interact back with the applicant. So let's say after reviewing this, you wanted to send this back for changes. All I'd have to do is update the status. I could come here and say, hey, this application needs changes. I can note what those are. I could say, please resubmit your plot plan with neighboring lots, something like that. And you can choose to notify that applicant via email. So I'll leave that turned on, update the status. And that will automatically send an email notifying the applicant that, hey, you need to go make a change here, and then they can do that. And so back on this view, if I were to come back to this interface and refresh it, well, you'll notice that this now says changes are needed, and there's a note saying what those changes are. So I could go ahead and make my fix and resubmit my application. And then a couple other things here. You'll see that as I'm doing, this this work over here on the left, there's this little activity feed that's showing everything that's ever happened on this project. So, when it was submitted, when comments were made, when it was sent back. So it's pretty cool. It gives you almost this running timeline of how work has evolved. And it makes it very easy to later come back and jump in if you weren't part of the project from day one. So that's how you'd interact with the submission. Again, a lot more to this that we don't have time for on this webinar. But a couple other things I'll show. We give you a task management system here. If you want to assign review tasks to staff, they can have their own little to-do list here. There's different ways of reporting on all this data. So for example, if you want to see development trends over time, you can create different filtered views and look at, for example, generate a map report that would show everywhere projects of a certain type are happening and let you drill into those. So there's a lot of very cool functionality in the system. And one final thing here that I think is really important and nice to show is that rule builder that we alluded to earlier. So this is the interface where everything that you just saw in the software gets configured. So if you're looking at this section on the left, this is the project types that were set up as different application options. Over here on the right, you can see the different types of steps and actions that are getting included. And if I click into the middle here, you can see the different rules that are set up in between to drive the logic. So everything gets configured through here. What's required, what's not, the content, all done through this type of a visual setup. And adding a new rule, for example, it's as simple as just clicking this button here that says Add New Rule. So when we say our customers have full access control to kind of come in and do this work themselves if they want to, we really do mean it. And this interface is quite easy to learn, and many governments have done so. So I think for at least this webinar, that's probably what I was hoping to get through. I mean, I know a lot of questions have come in, and thank you, Mike, for furiously answering things. It looks like a lot has been asked.
I've developed arthritis today.
Yeah,
I'm still here, still ready. Send the question.
Good. Yeah, so certainly, if there's other things you want to see, let us know. I mean, we can address those. We can stay online as long as people want to show stuff or set up follow-up sessions. I do want to pull Mike away from answering questions for maybe a few more minutes, just so we can do a quick demo of virtual inspections, if that works for you, Mike.
I'm ready to show you my cockroaches. All
right, perfect. So I'm going to jump to this. Again, it's a very simple, straightforward system. That's the entire point. So I'm just going to do a quick little 2-minute demo here for you to see how easy this is to use. And then again, we'll just stick around if there's any follow-up questions we can help with. So this is our virtual inspection system. It is integrated into the platform, as you can see. And we've made this something that you can literally just run anytime from any device. We looked at how virtual inspections tended to be run prior to this type of system. And what we were normally seeing is Zoom calls, FaceTime calls, things that required an app to be installed, or, a lot of preparatory work to be done. So we really wanted to design something where I could just click a button and then run a session with anybody at any time with no prep. And that's what we've done here. So I'm going to go ahead and click this Start Inspection button. And I'm going to basically enter Mike's phone number, which I have up right here. So let's see, 626-372-4598. Hopefully I got that right. And I can enter some information about, you can customize different inspection types. I could fill out, if I wanted to tie this to a specific permit record, I could do that, put the address. I could invite other inspectors to join for this. Mike, do you want me to do audio off and you can just stay on Zoom, or do you want to talk through the inspection?
Well, since I'm going to be in my attic, just do the audio through there so you can guide me.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And I want to make a disclaimer here. I just moved into this home recently. We've definitely had inspections out to take care of the insects and pests, but I've left a couple cockroaches here. So we don't have an infestation problem. I always get a concerned email after I demo Fred and Mary, my 2 cockroaches I've kept, but just disclaimer.
Yes, it's a good one. Well, so I've gone ahead and launched this session. Now, what Mike is seeing, I'll show you over here. I have some slides that kind of show it. Essentially, once this inspection gets started, Mike gets a text on his phone. So it's that simple. Again, there's no app, there's no anything downloaded. Literally just gets a text. He's going to go ahead and click a link on that text. That'll look something like this. It'll prompt him with a couple things like permission to access his camera, show a little disclaimer if you want where he can join. And then once he hits OK to that, he will be in the session, and it'll basically just share a real-time video feed like this. So, if I come back to that tab, you'll see, all right, that's all happened. And we are getting a nice high quality real-time video feed of Mike's house that he is generously showing off for us. So system's really, really simple, intuitive. A few things I'll point out here that are cool. One is we are automatically capturing his location. So if I need to verify where he is and that he is where he says he is, that will be shown to me in real time. This will show me the signal strength of his device and mine. So I can actually see as he kind of walked into this room, it dropped a little bit. So let's say, the feed were to just cut off or something like that, that might just help you diagnose where the issue is coming from. And then of course I can communicate to him, so I can talk to Mike as he's walking around in his house. How's it going, Mike? And then I can also do things like, I could use a pointer, so I could say like, hey, hey, yeah, zoom in on that cockroach, show me that. I can also capture images. So, if I want to hit, capture image, something like that, it'll grab a screenshot, and I can annotate, whatever may be, whatever may be going on. I can mark it up and go ahead and save it. And then as I capture these screenshots, those will show up over here in my inspection feed that gets built up on the right. So it's really nice as you're going through this, you don't have to worry about taking notes or anything like that. It just kind of, automatically creates this little repository for you that you can use later to generate a report. So, if Mike goes ahead and looks at something else in the room here quickly, whatever he wants, we can just do that and grab an image and go ahead and save this and add it to my report. That's very sweet, so I'll grab that too. So that's how this works. Again, very simple, very intuitive, easy to use. We have many agencies doing hundreds of these inspections every week with a lot of success. So I'll go ahead and end this. Again, like I said, just wanted this to be kind of a quick demo. At the end of the inspection, you can put a result if you want, pass, fail. I'll give them a pass, submit that. And that will go ahead and generate a report for me at the end. So yeah, I think that essentially wraps up our demo.
Quick question, Nate.
Yeah.
You may have answered this, but Norma asked if the inspection was recorded. Did you answer this, or you want me to?
I didn't. No, great question. If you want to go ahead and answer it.
So yeah, the gist is that when Nate goes to start that inspection, he can choose whether it's recorded or not. And if it is recorded, it gets stored on our servers securely encrypted, and it stays there forever. That's like part of the pricing of inspections, is that we'll store that forever. If you want to export that data and move it somewhere else, or that's totally up to you. And you're also welcome to delete it. But that is how that process works. If you don't want to record it, it won't be recorded.
Yep, exactly. And that recording would show up here. I've pulled up the inspection summary. So you would see that here. Once it takes a few minutes to process, but it'll be here. And then also, like I mentioned, this will generate an inspection report automatically. So if I go ahead and go and open that, you can see that this has the details of the inspection, the location, and then all the high resolution screenshots that were taken as the inspection happened. So you don't have to worry about building this out manually later. It'll have all your notes, timestamps, things like that. Looks like there's another question. Can you have your inspector do on-site inspections, set up a correction list, and email those to the contractor or the owner? So Lynn, it may be helpful to have you clarify what you're asking, but I assume you're asking whether this app is something that the inspector can use on site themselves to kind of record and do the session. And the answer is this particular app is not really set up that way. This is for doing a remote inspection with a, say a homeowner or somebody else on site. But we do have other ways to support what you're asking, other technology that would allow for kind of an inspector recording a session on site and recording their checklist. If that doesn't answer your question, go ahead and just type, a clarification and we can address that.
Yeah, and if you go back to the inspections, just in case this covers it from a different way, and pull up an existing one with a report. Yeah, so that download down below can be downloaded and sent to the homeowner, whomever you've done this inspection with. And we will be adding in support to have that automatically emailed if you choose to, or for you to email it from here. Generally, we haven't set up the automation of this email out. And that way we've had agencies ask us for their own discretion there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like I said, that's that wraps up the demonstration, at least for the webinar, and we are getting to the hour here. So looks like we're right about on time. I'm going to just put this up here so you know where to find more information. If you do want to request a demo, learn more, find some content on what we just showed you, our website is camino.ai. Feel free to reach out to us there at any time. For those of you that do have to run, thank you so much for attending. I really do hope this was helpful. I'd love to hear from you either way. So if you found this helpful or if you have feedback on the webinar, please reach out with any thoughts or suggestions for future content. So yeah, again, thank you so much. I will stay on with Mike in case any other questions come in for a few more minutes here. But yeah, thank you.
It's happy hour time.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just hang. So stay if you want to talk or otherwise have a great rest of your day. And Mike, you probably should move the cockroaches at some point.
Yeah, it's true. I realize I think there's less of them in there. I wonder if my cat's been getting in there and having late lunches.
Yeah, they do that. So
it is like 40 degrees warmer in that attic than in our home. So the insulation is working. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Thanks, Ashley. Appreciate the feedback.
Mitch, storage capacity is unlimited storage and 500 megabytes per upload, no limit on number of uploads.
Yes, and again, like Mike mentioned, that is kind of an arbitrary limit. We can increase that limit if needed.
How is the form being included in our product? We built our own form product. So that is all native within our product. You can design forms, reuse them, repurpose them. And what's great is if you have a form in our system, as people fill out Q&A, it can also pre-populate any form step, any form field that needs to be filled out. As someone is going through the Q&A process, it's pre-filling all the information in their eventual application. So we have this idea of fill it out once and it should fill it out everywhere.
Yep.
Nate, it says we're still in the recording. I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure what that means either. Still in the recording. Yeah, Tanya, if you could clarify what that means. I'm not sure what that means. I had pulled up the form builder since Mike was talking about it. I thought I could show, kind of show what this looks like. But yeah, like Mike said, we have this interface where you can literally build your own forms in Camino. You can drag and drop fields. You can tie them to different parts of the system. You can ask them to automatically fill out. It's very, very cool technology. And then Norma asked a question, did you already mention if you can upload existing projects? So again, Norma, just to make sure we're answering the right thing, I think you're asking about, if you say had an existing set of permit records that you wanted to migrate over into Camino, could you do that? The answer is yes, we can support that. So yeah, I would just say, let us know if that's something you want to talk about further, or let me know if that isn't what you were asking. And yeah, Mike put his email in. I'll go ahead and throw my email into the chat too, just in case. Yeah,
I assume everyone here is already talking to someone at Camino, but if there's a particular curiosity you have. Always happy to give another answer.
Yep. And Norma says that was it.